Moving on to the SWOT analysis, some of the key strengths that we recognize with Twitter are its instantaneous interaction between different people, news sources, and companies. Being a global platform, it allows users from all across the world to interact with other users instantaneously. And being an internet-based company, the ease and accessibility, Twitter is accessible by just about anybody and just about anywhere. Some of the weaknesses that we identified with Twitter are its inability to generate cash flows. As with any growing business, the company needs cash flows in order to innovate and operate. Innovation lacks approval. In recent years, Twitter has come out with different user interfaces that users haven't exactly liked, and they've lost users as a result. If they continue to come out with these innovations that push users away, they might see their company fall. And also in analyzing the financials of Twitter, we noticed low both gross margin and net margin. And as with the cash flows, any growing company, that is a crucial part of growing the company. Moving on to the opportunities, Twitter, as well as other social media companies, much more popular than traditional media sources such as newspapers, magazines, stuff like that. Also, what started out as mostly an interface for teenagers and college kids is becoming much more popular with older generations, upwards of 50 years old. So their usership is growing quite significantly. And also just in the past 5 to 10 years, the overall growth in the social media industry has been quite large. Some of the threats that we recognize with Twitter are just the large amount of substitutes. You can get the news pretty much anywhere. So getting people to use Twitter to access that information is a threat. Also, the technology in the industry is ever changing. The ability for different startup companies to come into the market at any time is an apparent threat to Twitter. And then cybersecurity. Being an internet-based company, Twitter is always liable to having accounts hacked and user information to be stolen. We've seen in the past accounts such as the Associated Press and even the White House Twitter accounts being hacked. So Twitter's ability to protect these users and protect their information is crucial for their success. So if you remember earlier in our presentation, we discussed some of the problems that Twitter was facing. The problems included the stagnant growth in usership, the lack of cash flow generation, and just an overall rejection of some of the innovations they've tried previously, most notably their idea of increasing the number of characters from 140. So the next aspect of the SWOT analysis is to take some of those strengths and weaknesses that we identified and pair them up with the opportunities and threats and try to come up with some strategies to combat and fix some of those problems that I just mentioned. Some of the obvious strengths that we identified is Twitter's ability to have users from all across the world interact with each other instantaneously. Some of the opportunities that we identified were that this instantaneous news outlet is becoming much more popular than traditional methods. So a possible strategy would be for Twitter to promote a platform as more of a news source and give these users the ability to get the news instantaneously using Twitter instead of the internet or newspapers or magazines. Another opportunity is that Twitter is becoming much more popular with those people under 50. So one strategy we developed was that make different channels. So for example, cater to specific news events, sporting events. Let's say NFL Sunday. Have a Twitter channel that enables all users to access only tweets relating to NFL games of their choice. So say the Bills and Patriots are playing. Have a channel specifically for all tweets relating to that. Another strategy that we identified was that given the rapid growth in the social media industry, Twitter should try to capitalize that and just continue to market to more outside countries, outside of the United States and most of the European Union. It should move into more developing countries. It'll be a good way for them to broaden their usership and gain more users and really take advantage of the strong growth in the social media industry. So when comparing the strengths and threats of Twitter, one of the main threats that we recognized was that there's a large number of substitutes such as traditional news sources. one of the opportunities or one of the strategies that we came up with was creating channels for these news sources such as Fox News or CNN that users can subscribe to, and then they can click on those just to see instant news or whatever specific topic they really want to see. It'll be a better way for Twitter to really engage these news sources and take a little bit of advantage away from that. Moving on to threat number two, that technology is easily accessible and ever changing. Twitter has a very strong global platform, and usually all over the world use Twitter. So whenever they implement one of these changes, they should use this global platform to solicit opinions and gain feedback and different data and analyze that when implementing a change and see if users actually like the change. Moving on to the weaknesses and matching weaknesses up with opportunities. The obvious weaknesses that we identified earlier were Twitter's inefficiency of generating cash flows, their low margins, their lack of approval on some of their innovations. And with those same opportunities, one of the things is trying to generate cash flow. So for these people under 50 years old, a possible solution would be to increase the advertisement for job searches. So have companies like Monster or LinkedIn advertise more on Twitter. It'll be a good way for Twitter to generate more cash, and it'll get more people using Twitter as a way to find a job. Moving on to some of the threats and weaknesses, one of the most obvious is Twitter's inability to generate cash flow, as we've been mentioning, but also the threat against cybersecurity. So if Twitter, for example, could charge a small fee for enhanced security services, so say a large company wanted to pay Twitter to have increased security services, whether they package that together with other incentives for these large companies, but large companies would certainly be interested in paying Twitter to maintain their information and protect their security.